Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into a really ancient story, but one that's also one of the most masterful negotiations you'll ever come across. It's from the book of Genesis, and it's all about grief and diplomacy and how the very first piece of a promised nation was secured, not with a sword, but with a real estate deal for a grave. So our story kicks off with something we can all understand: loss. The great patriarch Abraham has just lost his wife Sarah. After an entire lifetime together, she passes away in the land of Canaan. And this deeply personal tragedy, it creates a very immediate, very practical problem for him. And this right here is his biggest hurdle. Abraham goes to the local rulers, the Hittites, and he just lays it all out there. He tells them, look, I'm not a citizen. I don't have any rights here, no property. He has zero legal claim to even a tiny patch of dirt to bury the person he loves the most. He is, in his own words, a foreigner and a stranger.
So that's the core question, right? How does he solve this? This is a man of incredible wealth and status, a man who was promised an entire nation by God. And yet, in this critical moment, he doesn't own a thing. The answer is going to require a masterclass in public negotiation, balancing respect for their customs with his own unshakable goal.
Okay, first up, a stranger's grief. Let's really look at how Abraham approaches the people in charge of the land, because his public display of grief is also his opening move. So notice what he asks for. He doesn't ask for charity, he's not looking for pity. He comes at this as a business deal. He asks them to sell him property. Now, this is a huge sign of respect. He's acknowledging that they own the land, that they're in charge, and he's framing his need inside their own legal and cultural rules. And the Hittites, they respond with this incredible show of generosity and honor. They call him a mighty prince and offer him the best of their own family tombs, totally free of charge. Now, in our world, that would be the end of it, right? But in the ancient Near East, this kind of big public offer, well, it's really just the opening move in a very delicate dance. So that brings us to the negotiation itself, and this is where it gets really fascinating, because what's being said out loud and what's actually being meant, well, they're two very different things. Abraham is so smart here. He shows immense respect, he bows, but he very politely sidesteps their general offer. See, he doesn't want to just borrow a tomb, he wants to own one. So he pivots, and he makes a super specific request. He's already picked out a spot, this cave called Machpelah, owned by a specific guy, Ephron, and he makes it crystal clear he's ready to pay the full price. So now the owner, Ephron, he steps up, and he does this in front of everybody at the city gate, which, that was the public square where all the official business got done, and he makes an even bigger offer. He doesn't just offer the cave, he offers to give Abraham the entire field it's in for free. Sounds like an amazing gift, right? Well, this is the cultural key that unlocks the whole thing. That public offer to give the land away, it wasn't a real offer. It was all part of the bargaining ritual. It made Ephron look like a generous, honorable guy, which then set the stage for him to name a really high price later on without seeming greedy. And Abraham gets it. He understands this custom perfectly. He respectfully turns down the gift. Because if he had accepted it, that land would have come with all of these social strings attached, and it could even have been reclaimed later. By insisting on paying, Abraham is making sure this is a clean, permanent, legal purchase. No strings attached. So we've reached the crucial point. The pleasantries are over, and a price has to be named for the permanence that Abraham is so determined to get. And there it is. Ephron names his price. But he does it so brilliantly. He couches this really high price in this casual, friendly language. Yeah, the land's worth 400 shekels of silver, but hey, what's a little money between friends like us? He's downplaying the cost while stating it very, very clearly. And let's be clear, this was not a small amount of money. From what we know from other texts, this was a very, very significant price for a plot of land. But Abraham doesn't haggle. He doesn't make a counteroffer. He just immediately agrees. He wants everyone to see just how committed he is. And then the deal was sealed with total legal finality. This wasn't some handshake agreement. Nope. The silver was weighed out using the official standard for merchants in front of all the witnesses right there at the city gate. The property deed was transferred. It was an ironclad, public, legally binding transaction. So after burying his wife Sarah, Abraham's whole story is at this massive turning point. the importance of this purchase ripples out way beyond just a single grave.
I mean, just look at how specific the deed was. This thing was designed to leave zero room for arguments later on. It named the field, the cave inside it, and even all the trees within the borders of the field. This level of detail meant Abraham's ownership was absolute and couldn't be disputed, ever. And really, this is the biggest takeaway. For decades, you got to remember, Abraham had been living as a nomad, a foreigner and stranger, just holding on to a promise of a future. But with this purchase, that promise suddenly became real. It became tangible. He went from being a wanderer to a landowner, establishing the very first permanent, legally owned foothold for his family in the land of Canaan.
So you have to ask yourself, what really happened there at the city gate? Was this just a grieving husband buying a burial plot, or was it the quiet, strategic laying of a cornerstone? A story that shows us that sometimes the first step to claiming your destiny doesn't start with a battle, but with the purchase of a grave.